Okay, so we're diving into AI again.
Always.
Well, this time it's all about Sam Altman's latest talks.
And yeah, that University of Michigan talk, wow.
Right. 500 questions from the students alone. Clearly, this stuff is striking a nerve.
It's the topic, right? Everyone wants to know where AI is going next.
Exactly. And luckily, we're here to break it down, get past the hype, and figure out what it all means.
Beyond the headlines, yeah.
Exactly. And who better to help us unpack it all than our AI expert, who's been following Altman and OpenAI for, what is it, a decade now?
A decade that feels like a century in AI years. But yeah, it's been fascinating to watch it all unfold.
So let's jump right in with this whole strawberry thing. Some are saying it's just GPT, like the sequel, but Altman himself keeps hinting it's something bigger. Help us understand the difference.
It's subtle but important. Strawberry isn't just about better chat, it's about AI that can actually reason.
Okay, so not just mimicking human conversation anymore.
Right. Less chatbot, more like imagine an AI that tackles problems, complex problems, using logic, just like a human expert would. That's the leap.
So not just smarter AI, but a different type of intelligence.
Exactly. Altman gave this example. They had Strawberry take that crazy hard AIM math competition, the one for high schoolers.
Oh, yeah, I vaguely remember those. Not fondly.
Well, get this. Strawberry scored a 93%.
Wow, there goes my future career as a math tutor. But seriously, what does that level of, like, problem solving even mean? It's not just crunching numbers, it's...
It unlocks a whole new level. Think about AI designing bridges, but like way more efficient ones, or new materials, or even cracking codes that have stumped us for decades. It's that level of thinking.
Makes you wonder what those students were asking Altman, right? Like,
Oh.
should I just drop out of computer science now?
Mm-hmm.
But on a more serious note, this all ties back into AGI, artificial general intelligence. Where does Altman stand on that now?
He's moved away from the idea of AGI as this big event, like a sudden singularity moment. Now he talks about an exponential curve of progress.
So, less of a light switch, more like...
More like every year in AI will feel like a decade in other fields. That's how fast it's moving. Hard to grasp, really.
So for someone listening right now, stuck in rush hour traffic, what does this actually look like in their life?
Think about it. Every day, the world gets a little bit smarter, a little more automated. The question is, will we even notice these changes as they happen, or will it just feel inevitable?
Like, how do you even prepare for that? But there was another thread that Altman kept coming back to that I found really interesting, and it was about young founders in particular.
Yes. He's concerned about what he called a lack of ambition among young entrepreneurs lately. Like there's a lack of big swings, big ideas.
But at the same time, he seemed to suggest that these same AI tools could be what jumpstarts a whole new wave of innovation, right? Like this generation coming up, they're not intimidated by AI, they're energized by it.
Exactly. And it's funny because Altman himself was a young founder, and he talked about how different the tech scene felt back then. Almost like he's hoping AI can bring back that same energy of, let's just try it and see what happens.
Like he's saying, look, you're already light years ahead of me in using this stuff,
Yeah.
so go build the future already.
And speaking of building the future, we can't talk about AI without talking about energy.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. Because it takes a ton of energy to run these AI systems.
Oh, like our current energy grid is barely holding on as it is.
Exactly. And we're talking about potentially millions, billions of AI systems all needing power to learn to process.
It's like we haven't even solved our current energy problems, and now we're adding AI to the mix.
It puts a fire under the whole energy sector to innovate, for sure. Altman kept coming back to fusion, sees it as a total game changer.
Fusion, yeah, that's been the holy grail for a while now.
Totally.
Yeah.
And even if it takes longer than we'd like, he says there are other paths, solar, storage, even stuff we haven't thought of yet. So it's this weird two-way street. We need AI to solve our energy problems, but we also need those energy breakthroughs to make the most of AI.
Totally intertwined, these two. But let's switch gears for a sec, because there's another biggie when we talk about powerful AI. Trust.
Especially with all the hallucinations and stuff, right?
Mm.
If these systems are making things up, how can we trust them?
Funny enough, Altman says that users are getting better at spotting those hallucinations, learning how to read AI, basically.
So it's not just about perfect AI, but us getting smarter about how we use it.
Exactly. Adaptability is key on both sides. Altman's big thing is that the most valuable skill in the coming years won't be some specific tech thing, but the ability to learn fast, be okay with change.
So for our listeners, it's not just about understanding the code, it's about understanding how to learn any code.
Exactly. But let's circle back to the risks of AI for a second, because Altman was surprisingly open about how OpenAI is tackling those internally.
Yeah, what's their strategy for making sure these powerful systems don't, take over the world?
Well, first off, the sheer scale of monitoring they're doing is crazy. They've got these super sophisticated systems tracking how their AIs are used, looking for anything weird.
So like a whole team whose job it is to just watch the AI.
Pretty much. But here's the thing. Altman admitted that early on, they didn't do nearly enough pre-launch testing. They've had to play catch-up, which, with this kind of tech,
It's kind of terrifying when you think about it.
no kidding, but they've learned from it. Now it's all about building in safeguards from day one. The stakes are just too high otherwise.
But didn't Altman also say that the biggest risk from AI isn't some Hollywood robot uprising?
Yeah, he's over the Terminator scenario. He wants us to focus on the more complex, nuanced issues, the ethical dilemmas, the societal changes, the economic disruptions. That's where the real challenges lie.
So if killer robots aren't keeping him up at night, what is? What's Sam Altman most worried about when it comes to AI?
Honestly, the speed of it all, that rate of change we talked about earlier, that's what worries him most.
Even if we can handle each AI challenge as it pops up, it's the cumulative effect, the constant need to adapt that might be too much.
It's like trying to drink from a fire hose of progress. Overwhelming, even if the water itself is good for you.
Man, that's a lot to process. But before we spiral into existential dread here, I did appreciate how grounded Altman's talk was at times. Like, he wasn't just up there talking about abstract concepts.
Totally. He's building the future, not just talking about it, and he's encouraging everyone else to do the same. It's inspiring, actually.
So where do we even start?
Education is key. Access to information, resources. Altman talked a lot about democratizing AI, making sure everyone has a chance to learn these tools.
Because in the end, AI is just a tool, right? It's up to us to decide how we use it.
Exactly. We all have a part to play in shaping this future.
It's funny how we started off talking about AI solving crazy math problems, but then kept coming back to something way more down to earth. Energy.
It all comes back to energy, doesn't it?
Right. Like, we can design all the fancy AI we want, but
If you can't power it, what's the point?
exactly. Altman's making it clear. Energy is fundamental. It's like the key to unlocking everything else.
No energy, no AI revolution.
And he's not just talking about data centers and servers, right? It's bigger than that.
Way bigger. He's talking about a world totally transformed by AI. Transportation, manufacturing, even things like personalized medicine.
Which all require massive amounts of energy.
Exactly. If we want AI to revolutionize those fields, we need an energy infrastructure that can handle it. And not just handle it, but handle it sustainably.
Which brings us back to fusion. Feels like Altman's putting a lot of faith in that being the ultimate solution.
He is a big believer, for sure. And it makes sense, right? Clean, safe, potentially limitless power.
It's like the dream energy source.
Totally. But to be fair to Altman, he's not putting all his eggs in the fusion basket just yet. He talked about solar, wind, energy storage, even stuff we haven't even thought of yet.
Right, it's got to be an all-of-the-above approach. But I was struck by how critical he was of the current energy landscape, like especially in the U.S. He did not hold back.
Nope, he was blunt. We need a better grid, faster approvals for new energy projects, and honestly, just more urgency. This isn't some future problem, it's right now.
He even called out other countries, saying they're already leaving the U.S. in the dust when it comes to things like renewables.
It's a wake-up call, for sure. This isn't just about tech anymore, it's geopolitics. The countries that figure out the energy game, they're going to be calling the shots.
Okay, that's a lot to digest. So for our listeners maybe feeling a little overwhelmed right now, what's the one thing they should take away from all this?
Easy. Pay attention to energy. Not just your own electricity bill, but the big picture. How is it made? Where does it come from? What are the challenges? The more we understand about energy, the better equipped we'll be for this future Altman's describing.
It's like becoming energy literate is just as important as becoming, AI literate.
Totally. Because they're inseparable, these two. The future belongs to those who understand how they work together.
Well said. Unfortunately, we're going to have to power down for today, but to our listeners, keep those brains buzzing, keep asking questions, and as always, stay curious. We'll be back next time with another deep dive.